Well, the group had been decimated, the group of followers of Jesus. It wasn't so long ago that each and every member of that group must have done a whole lot like King of the World or Queen of the World, as the case may be. You remember what it was like. Jesus was like a breath of fresh air to them and everyone who heard him. You know Jesus. Jesus was the one who was unafraid to challenge the powers that be. And it was refreshing. His vision of God was so refreshing. Jesus challenged the religious authorities, and those powers that be that he challenged might also be the local government. King Herod even, though Herod was not much of a king, he was just kind of a puppet ruler, a superpower Rome allowed him to be. Now Jesus even might be accused of challenging the real king of the world. And at that time that would be Caesar. He said, render to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God the things that are God's. One fine day, you heard the story, 5,000 men showed up. As the account goes, 5,000 men, not to mention the women and children, came out to see Jesus. And miracle of miracles, no one left that day hungry. Another day, it was 4,000 that showed up. And the same thing this time. No one left hungry. There were so many people constantly following Jesus that they had no time even to sleep or to eat. Sometimes, not even enough time to pray. And then it all falls apart in just a few short days and a few short hours. Jesus is finally arrested on charges of sedition and treason, convicted and executed. It was one of the 12 closest to him that betrayed him. And following Jesus' execution, that one took his own life. Now, what was left of the group by now they were very, very afraid. And then they went away to hide behind closed, locked doors. And miraculously, the risen Lord appears and comes and stands among them. He says, peace be with you. He showed him his hands and he showed him his eyes. And then he said, do not be afraid. For the next 40 days or so, they tried to make sense of what the resurrection really means. They enjoyed his presence, moving in and among them from time to time. But he was gone. We heard the story of the ascension, and in that story it says the cloud took the risen Lord up out of their sight. Jesus told them that he was going to be with God, but do not be afraid. So then, what had been once thousands of people coming to see Jesus, now reduced. You've heard the reading. It's about 100 or so. I think it said about 120. That's it. That's all that was left. And of those 12 closest, Judas is now dead. And their number stands at 11. So then, to go through the motions, or be true of the way of Jesus, the remaining 11 are compelled to choose Judas' replacement. A new apostle must be chosen. It must be a disciple who knew Jesus and had witnessed the resurrection itself. So they got ready to choose. 2 names were proposed. You heard the names, Barsabbas and Matthias. First they pray, and then they choose. And they choose by casting lots. The way that it works is this. They take 2 small stones, write the names on each of the 2 stones, put the stones in the jar, and then they begin to shake it. Begin to shake harder and harder until one of them pops out. And one name popped out. Oh, it was the lucky one, I guess, or maybe the unlucky one. And it was Matthias. And that's the story of how he became the 12th apostle. Do not be afraid, Jesus says. And Jesus says, always pray. And that's what they do. They pray. We pray first so that the Spirit of God might be present among us and work through the choices that we have to make in life. The gospel that I read today, the Gospel of John, it began with those 2 words. Jesus prayed. During their time together, the disciples learned how important prayer is to the fabric of Jesus' life. Not just the fabric of his spiritual life, but an integral part of life itself. Jesus prayed. And the context in which I read that prayer today is the Last Supper, the night before his arrest and execution. In the particular prayer, a portion that I read from just a few moments ago, is known as Jesus' high priestly prayer. You see, in the Jewish tradition, the one who serves as the high priest stands before God and prays for the people. In other words, it's kind of in the middle. The first high priest is the one in the middle, the one who prays to God for God's people. So let's think about prayer for a moment. I would say that prayer is one of the big three of the Christian life and being a disciple of Jesus. Now, the big three, I would say, would be our worship. It would be our service or outreach. And then, of course, there's prayer. And of these three, these big three, I think that prayer may be the most enigmatic. You know, we gather as a community to worship in the sacramental church tradition, and it's beautiful. And also outreach, serving as a disciple of Jesus, that too is a form of prayer. But prayer itself is where it gets personal. That's where we have to open our heart to Jesus, every bit of it, and let God get in there and move around the neighborhood. And so it is the heart of Jesus that prays, protect them from the evil one. Keep in mind here that the evil one may not really be a person, or even a devil, as we like to think. But think of the evil one as something of a presence. By evil one, Jesus here could easily mean fear. The evil one is fear, paralyzing, debilitating fear. That's why we always hear, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Remember the day when this community could have been paralyzed by fear. I'm talking about this. Remember the day when we could have been paralyzed by fear. Yes, there was death, but now there is life. Or there is a new way of life. The evil one, fear, has no place among us. Jesus prays for his friends and his disciples. He prays that they may be of one heart and one mind, just as Jesus is of one heart and mind with God. The Lord prays that we might be one, but this is a unity that is closer to home. This is a call for prayer for the communities where we actually live. Our parish, of course, but also our family, our household, and maybe even the places where we work. Oh yes, of course, there are bound to be differences among us, as there have been in the past. Yet, when we disagree, the reality and the power of the resurrection gives us grace to transcend, to go beyond those differences. Why is that? It's because the resurrection is the gift of Jesus to all of God's people, everyone. It is the one thing that we all share in common, is the resurrection. Do not be afraid. So yes, you might say that the lots have been cast, and the lot has fallen to us. The prayer of Jesus for us, it does not weave a cocoon of safety around us. Rather, the prayer of Jesus for us is the strength and the courage to drive the evil one from our midst. The evil one is fear. And our experience, our real lived experience of moving from death to life, shows that power, that fear, has no power here. So today, the Lord has chosen to call you, or to remind you that yes, indeed, you have been chosen. You, we, all of us together have been chosen as Christ's own forever. Do not fear. Don't ever fear again. In God's name. Amen.